Good morning, everybody. All right, how did you guys enjoy day one at DevNet Create? Is it good? Awesome. I am so relieved because we were really nervous, as I told you, about what would DevNet Create be like. We had our dreams of what we thought and were hoping it would be, but I'm so excited because it seems like everybody's having a good time. Everybody's learning new things. The feedback seems to be that the content is spot on. People are really excited about the speakers. As we said, 90% of the speakers came from the community. It's all of you. So thank you. Thank you for all your participation and energy in all of this. So we're excited to kick off day two. So day two for DevNet Create with our morning keynotes here. So this morning, we're actually going to have a few talks. We're actually going to give you a break today between the morning keynotes. Are we good? And everybody was very patient, had a stretch last time, but we decided to build in a break. So we're actually going to start out this morning hands-on with DevNet Create. And we'll have Mandy Whaley and Ashley Roach coming up and talking with and bringing up also some of the people who were hands-on with DevNet Create yesterday to talk about what they've done. Then we have our Department of Commerce expanding economic opportunity through open data. And Drew Zachary and Radhika Bhatt will be here to speak about that. Then you'll get your break. And then we have Damon Edwards, and I know many of you have come to see Damon, on self-service operations because failure still happens. And then we have a special talk, which is Mandy will come back, and there's a talk that she's given, which is very powerful. It's the power of DatOps for women in tech. And I think this is going to be a really great eye-opening treat for all of you, and it's always a hit. So anyway, lots in store for you today, and we're just going to start right off. Mandy and Ashley. Welcome, Mandy.
All right, thanks. Yeah, we'll leave it up here just in case. Yeah. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're really excited about this excellent set of content we've got for this morning. Really excited to see all the things that are going to be happening. So I'm Mandy Whaley. I lead our evangelism and developer experience team for Cisco DevNet. And what we want to do today in this hands-on with DevNet Create is we want to put the emphasis back on the community and look at some of the work that people have been doing at the conference, some of the coding and hacking that's going to be going on. We're going to have some live demos and make it risky and, dive into the details and look at some code and some projects and all of those things. So that's what we're going to do today. I've got Ashley Roach. He is a member of our evangelist team. He's a principal engineer.
Hey, everyone.
And I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Ashley Roach. I've actually been at Cisco now for 7 years, which is longer than I've been at any company, I think. I did a couple startups prior to that. Yeah, really excited, and it's great to meet everybody. I mean, I think for us, even though it's a large company, we do have lots of events, and we tend to our events historically, as probably you already know, have been like Cisco Live and that sort of thing. So we have our kind of immediate community, and so it's great to meet all these new faces and all of the new community here today. So thanks again, and we'll talk more later.
Yeah. So just to look back on day one, I just wanted to highlight some of the cool things that came out in some of the presentations. So we had the release of the Spark Video SDK, and you'll get to see some hands-on work with that later in our talk. We have the $1 million in Meraki gear giveaway. We had a lot of talk around Kubernetes and microservices and bots in the enterprise. I sat in on some really great security talks yesterday that I thought were very eye-opening. The whole idea of a software supply chain is really important in the DevOps world, and then all the container networking announcements. So it was a really action-packed day one, and we're really looking forward to day two. So just real quick, if you want to find us on Twitter, here's all of our information. Here's Ashley's info, and here is my info. So I don't know if you want to say a little bit about your background and how you got into working with APIs, because I'm going to dive into that a little bit.
Sure. So I'm actually a self-taught programmer, so I have a liberal arts background. Go liberal arts, yeah. Parlez-vous français? So I've just had a passion for computing ever since I saw like my first Apple IIe when I was in school. So doing like Logo Basic and that sort of stuff I liked it. So fast forward until through the web era, and now here we are into like sort of an API era. It's just something I've gotten really fascinated about. It's really cool to be able to expose data and then enable people to do whatever they want with it, right? So, we have examples like the open data coming from, our government, for example, or state and local governments as well. And it's just a really fun space, I think, to be in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of similar background for me. So I'm from Austin, Texas. Anybody here from Austin? Woo! Everybody tells me they want to move to Austin, which is great. But so I love this sign. It's like boots, flip-flops, and an Airstream trailer. Like, what's more Austin than that? And then I work in developer experience. So my background, lots of software development, and then moving into developer experience and really thinking about what is it like to use APIs, how do you make them developer friendly? And I always feel like the Lorax a little bit. I don't know if you know the story of the Lorax. He speaks for the trees. I feel like I speak for the devs. So I'm always representing the developer perspective in a lot of the conversations that I'm in. And so what I want to talk a little bit about is why this moment that we're bringing DevNet Create into existence and why there's so much interesting stuff for developers to work on. So it kind of starts for me with like, why do I like APIs? And the reason I've always been fascinated with APIs and integrations is that it's like this pile of Legos that you can build something really cool off. So it's this composable set of tools that a developer has, and you can combine it in infinite variations and ways and solve a problem. And it really puts the power of problem solving into the developer who's in the line of business or in their community and gives them the power to do that. And that's what has always fascinated me about APIs. And right now, developers have the opportunity to work with a really interesting set of Legos. I think it's our most interesting set of Legos that we've had in a while. And that is this idea that sensors, and sensors could be a temperature sensor, a pressure sensor, your phone, a video camera, the network, any kind of sensor that you're talking about, plus the easy connectivity that we have, plus cloud services, plus data. This really kind of equals magic, and it opens up a lot of opportunity for developers. And that is what I'm hearing at this conference, and that's what a lot of the innovation and creativity that's coming out is focused around. And this is interesting as it relates to my background. So I started my career here in a chemical plant. I was a chemical engineer. I did automated process control, and writing software for control systems is how I figured out that I actually liked to code and that I wanted to be a software engineer. And when I worked in this space, I did automated process control, which is completely the Internet of Things, right? A chemical plant is full of sensors, and they're all connected, but they weren't really connected to the internet. And I got into using neural networks and trying to do predictive control for chemical processes, and it was really cool, but this was kind of a long time ago, and we just could never quite get there. We couldn't get enough data. We couldn't get enough connectivity. We didn't have the cloud. And so we got really close, and you could glimpse it, but we weren't quite there yet. And what's so exciting is that now we have the data, we have the compute, we have everything connected. We can get to a lot of this vision of really the power of machine learning, plus these sensors, plus the connectivity. And it's getting to be so easy that you see, like, I feel like every other week I see some article on the internet that's like this, where someone's taken a machine learning algorithm and applied it to, in this one they were seeing, could a machine learning algorithm name paints? Could it look at the color of a paint and pick a reasonable paint name for it? Which I thought was really funny. So they analyzed like the color information and they fed it data sets and data sets of paint, and then they came up with these colors. And I really want to paint my office dork wood with Carrington trim, right? I think that's like fantastic. And you can see that it's getting close, right? It's not perfect, and this probably wasn't quite a big enough data set, but it's getting close. There's another one of these where a machine learning algorithm came up with recipe names, and you should look it up because it's hilarious. Some of the recipes that came up were like whole chicken cookies, and like it was very entertaining. So I love this because it means it's getting accessible, it's getting real. There's machine learning libraries you can use in Python. It's not something you have to be in grad school to do. Anyone can do it these days, and I find that to be really energizing. So anybody know what this is? Can you guess what this is? Yeah, it is an automated sprinkler system. So this is the board in my garage connected to my sprinkler system, which I hate. Like, it was the worst user experience. Trying to set the zones and the timing, and you have this dial and these arrows and like no information coming back. And so what did I always do? I would just try to set it to the most basic blanket kind of settings. And that really wasn't the most efficient way to use water, right? So I recently replaced this with an IoT one. And this is an exact example of this sensors, connectivity, cloud, and data, and then magic happens. And to me, it was such a concrete and interesting example, because now I have this thing. Essentially, it's still wires going into, actuate things through the voltage, but it's connected to my Wi-Fi. It's connected to the internet. It can look at the weather. It can use machine learning to think about how much I should water and when, and it's saving tons of water. So connecting these things together has taken something that was a frustrating interface. I just applied blanket settings. I never wanted to touch it because it would always break, and resulted in a lot of wasted water. And now I have something that has a delightful interface I can use on my smartphone. It uses weather and analytics. It uses smart schedules, and it ends up saving a lot of water. And that's a pretty cool problem to solve.
And you changed the default password.
And of course, I changed the default password. I work for Cisco. Security is like top of mind, right? So anyways, I just wanted to bring that out. And you might think about examples like that you see. I thought in the maker panel yesterday that this really came out as, if you see a problem, it's probably a problem for someone else. So that's an interesting area of opportunity. Okay, and now what we want to do is we really want to put the focus on the community. So we've got several different people, several different demos that we're going to bring up and do some talking. So first we've got Drew. Where's Drew? Drew. Oh. All right.
They might be able to turn it on.
Yeah. So yeah, come on up. Come on up. Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna move over.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Drew. I'm with a company called Denoma Software. We're a pretty small, set of developers, and we do our own software that helps Cisco customers with their compliance needs, basically. I'm a .NET developer, and I've been with Denoma for not even a year, and I come from like a totally different industry of oil and gas. So for me, when I was invited to come here, I had just a totally open mind. I'm like, I'm very new to this space. I'm just going to come and see what I can pick up. So yesterday, I just happened to be, actually, I came to the workshop before yours. My boss wanted me to. And then I'm like, I don't want to move. I'm just going to stay here. And then Ashley had his workshop. And they were both very good. But I picked up so much from the Open API workshop that, I'm still new to this industry. And what I got was just inspired. I was able to say, this is something that I can learn. This is something that I can really just, if I can dream it, I can do it, thanks to the wonderful APIs and things. And not because it's easy or because, I'm brilliant or anything like that. It's mainly because of the great community, the great support, and I'm just so happy I came. So thank you guys.
Hey,
all right, thanks so much.
Here, I'll take the.
Yeah, we'll take the mic, and you can have a seat here. And next we've got John. So come on up. And John is from the Holberton School, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. And then he's also worked with Open Data, which is going to be covered in our next keynote. So he had an interesting story.
Thank you, and thank you to DevNet Create and Cisco for inviting Holberton School to come here. We had, I think, about 15 students, and we're a full-stack software engineering program in San Francisco. We have about a 2-year program, and one of the cool things about our program is we have 40% women and 60% non-white people, and then white guys like me who are doing career shifts. So I was kind of in the middle of my career as a clinical social worker, and I was actually working with open data in the city of Chicago, and currently, like in my career, the way that we share information is through PDFs, and nobody wants to share their PDF because they spend so much time and it's their PDF, and it has all this great information, but we're expected to help people find resources. And Google search is inadequate. And somehow I found open data in Chicago. Chicago has recently started supporting this trend. And so I gathered over 5,000 different resources, and I ended up creating a mini web app with JavaScript and Google APIs. With all the data that I had compiled, I created my own database, and my database is open now, and it's searchable. It's probably the best referral tool in the city of Chicago, and someone found it, and they ended up buying the branding for it. And so that's how I got started in tech, and that's what brought me here to San Francisco. And so I was super excited that you guys are supporting open data. One of the huge challenges that I found that I would be very curious to hear about is how people that are not in the tech industry are so resistant to automation and these, like a tool like I made that can make your job so much faster. So I'll be curious to hear more about that.
Awesome.
And do the hack too.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think I was really excited to hear about the open data connection. All right. Next we've got a demo. So Anthony Shaw from Dimension Data, I'll let him introduce himself, but he has created a demo that brings together bots and networking and incident response and all kinds of interesting things. So. Your chair is sinking.
Yeah, this is the entertainment part.
Can I just have that over?
This is not an IoT
Keep it
chair.
open,
So yeah, in terms of open data, I mean, I think I got exposed initially to open data at the API Strat conference.
Yes, me too.
Probably 3 years ago. So there's a gentleman in the API community who calls himself the API evangelist, and so he did this presentation about open data, and then had another, like a vendor or something that did open data as well. And so that kind of opened my eyes to sort of the more progressive cities that are doing this sort of thing. And then even fast forward to today, you've got like Steve Ballmer just launched his USA Facts site. So in terms of like, how do you make it accessible? And I think, Radhika and team can talk about that as well, how they're trying to make things accessible.
Yep.
So,
All right,
turn it over to you.
All right.
And the piston will go down.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good, we're awake. Okay. So if you can please turn your minds back to 2004. And we're going to talk a little bit about an incident and a sign. There's a saying that every sign has a story. And where I was working when I was at college, there was a sign in the data center that said, "No running in the data center." And I'm going to explain why that's there. So it's 2004. I checked yesterday. Our show was #1, 36 weeks that year.
Whoa, wow.
4 different songs. And I was pretty proud because I managed to get this as my smartphone. This is a Sony Ericsson P910. Did anyone else have one?
I had one. Yeah.
They were really good.
They were good, yeah.
The battery life was pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
better than my iPhone
Yeah.
7.
Reasonable camera, too.
Yeah. And I was in a support role working at a hosting company. I was on call. It was 2 a.m. And everything went completely wrong. And I went to the office, went to the data center, and basically had to go. It was just me at the time, in between the help desk, where the phones were going crazy, and between the data center. So I was running backwards and forwards, checking equipment, running back, answering the phone, talking to the client, running back again. And that explains the sign. So I managed to run whilst looking a different direction and knock myself fully unconscious.
Oh my gosh.
In the data center.
Did they take it with that phone?
No. There was actually a security camera which captured this. I was alone as well in the building, so that could have been really interesting. And there was a small blood stain on the pillar as well. So obviously, to try and stop that from happening ever again, I've just put together a really simple demo of what can be done with Cisco Spark. And if I'd have had that available at the time, injuries could have been prevented. So.
Have you seen the new discussion in DevOps about like humane IT and being like kind to your ops people? I would say that did not qualify as humane IT.
So there were two things I was trying to do. One of them was to check equipment, and the other one was to try and see whether clients were still complaining. So that was typically a good indicator whether everything was back to normal. So what I've done is set up a simple Twitter application that pulls anyone mentioning DevNet Create, and then it just runs a sentiment analysis trying to figure out whether they're happy or angry. So if anyone's tweeting about DevNet Create using the hashtag, then it will come up in the feed. But I've got access to that on my phone because I'm using the app. So I can see a live tweet feed of our clients. Obviously, I wouldn't maybe use DevNet Create in the real application. I'd use our client site or our website, and I'd see mentions of it being down. So you can set up filters based on that. That's typically a pretty good indicator, actually. The other thing that I've set up is two CSR 1000Vs, which I'm using just for this demo. So these are virtual routers running iOS XE. And I've got just a simple Spark room where if I were in the data center, then I can just issue some simple commands. Obviously, live demos are always a good idea.
That's what makes it fun.
Okay, so I've got one called CSR2, and we're going to see what happens with that one. So the bot in the background actually goes and logs into the router and just pulls out some basic information for me, so I don't need to pull out a console and start connecting to it.
So you're using the, which APIs on the devices are you using? Is it the device level REST-Net Conf-Yang, or is it that?
No. So this bot actually supports all of the different Cisco frameworks.
Okay.
So it supports the newer stuff, which has netconf and Yang, but it also supports the sort of older routers, which you can just connect to via SSH. And it just pulls out some information that I might be interested in. Probably the key one's uptime. So looking at the uptime, if that was a very small number, then I'd be suspicious. And I'd want to know something like, has anyone changed the configuration recently? This demo is all in GitHub, but I'll share the link at the end. So what I've done is stored what should be the configuration for the router in GitHub.
Do the piston thing. Cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask my bot to go and look at the configuration, the running configuration of the router, and check that no one's been fiddling with it and changing the settings. So it's going to go out and do that for me. And then when it comes back, it'll give me a status. Whilst we do that, let's see what people are saying about my demo.
That's a nice trick.
I'm glad there haven't been any trolls.
Great.
It's not a challenge, people.
Yeah, so it's come back. The configuration has drifted from the golden config. So that config is in GitHub, and you can have a look at that. So this is a typical scenario where someone made some configuration changes and forgot to write that to memory, and then the machine, the router rebooted, and then everything went wrong. So that's my short demo, just showing some basic things. I also kind of want to point out that the bot framework that we're using here for Cisco Spark, I just spoke to Adam. He said I was the first one to make one of these open source, and which is pretty cool because so Hubot Spark is Hubot is a GitHub framework for running bots. So I open sourced the Spark plugin for that. But just recently, somebody added bot API support to my package, and we were having a discussion around the changes. Adam piped in and gave us some pointers, and then that all got updated and merged. And I also recently realized that the person who is making contributions actually works for a competitor, which is pretty cool because we're both trying to solve the same problem, and that's the problem the client wants a solution for. So the fact that we can share the same code and the same ideas actually helps both of us.
Cool. That's a great example of community coming together.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, if anyone wants to keep in touch, then I'm on Twitter and I'm on GitHub as well.
Thank
so
you.
the GitHub site has got the code for this. It's called Panic Room.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right. All right. Next we're going to dive into some mini hacks and talk about some of the coding that people have done in our mini hacks. I'm not even going to bother to connect that. David, you can go ahead and come back to it. And Jose, who has been a long-time DevNet contributor, he was at our very first DevNet event and has been a huge champion within our community. He did some work on some of the mini hacks, and he wants to tell us about what he worked on.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, yesterday I sat with Oleg and did the iOS mini hack to use the new Fastlane integration between Cisco and Apple. It's very easy to actually do markings in your app to do some QoS in the wireless infrastructure from Cisco, which if you come from the network side, you know that's one of the things that really, really hurt when you're using networking gear. So actually being just making that simple change like a constant in the code was very easy, and you can actually go ahead and say, hey, this is a voice app, or this is a best effort app, or a background app, and you can go ahead and change between those main 4 queues, or even go to the other 5 that you have, like, for example, audio and video, or management, traffic. So it was very, very easy to do that. And again, if you come from a background, from a networking background, doing that in your network, it's always a trouble. So it's very easy, yeah. It was a very, very good mini hack.
So you took an iOS application that you had, implemented that SDK, set some of the changes, and now it has preferred optimized QoS when it runs on this.
Yeah, and you can see very easily in the mini hack, you can see very easily how you can capture the traffic in Wireshark, and you can see the markings there. It's prioritizing the traffic depending on if you said video or audio, or if it's best effort.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. You want to hang out?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Next up, we've got David Stout. He's a principal engineer on our DevNet team. And we're really excited about the Spark video SDKs that were released yesterday. So he's going to show us some example applications using those. And you can go do a mini hack using these SDKs while you're here.
And where are the mini hacks?
The mini hacks are that way. they're tucked around in the corner, tucked over in the corner over there.
Yeah. So thanks, Mandy. Yeah, I've worked for Cisco for 15, 16, 17 years now. I've worked in telephony, computer kind of area for longer than that, and it's really an exciting time. Really excited about the Spark Video SDK. It's something that we've kind of been able to do a little bit with Jabber and Remote Expert Mobile in the past, but this is, it's a portable WebRTC-based, cloud-based, just super well documented and easy to use. Really excited to see what developers like you take and do with this. So if you, I'm going to show a little demo here, but please do come around the corner. We have a number of mini hacks, including one that uses the Spark Video SDK to provide like a concierge service for Cisco Meraki captive portal website. So it's kind of merging the two technologies together. If you're familiar with the Spark APIs that have been around so far, they're based on the messaging part. So creating rooms, putting people into rooms, automating messages, chat bots like you just saw here. That's great. That's really maturing, and there's lots of application developers there. This new SDK is about taking the voice and video part of Cisco Spark, the highly secure, very HD quality, and letting you very easily embed that into web apps or iOS apps, or soon to be Android. So you can build essentially a new Spark client in your own image the way you want it to be, if you like, or just take bits and pieces of it that make sense. So in this example, we have a simple banking, fake banking app where you might want to allow people to talk to a specialist on a particular topic, with voice and video and full collaboration. So you're able to share files, whiteboard, screen sharing. Those features are coming as well. But it's really, really easy to embed this stuff into a web page. One of the features coming out in the video SDK are widgets. And essentially, you can just put a little bit of code, import a JavaScript library that we will serve to you from the cloud, from the Spark CDN, put that into a div with a couple of pieces of information, and it's essentially a full Spark, almost a full Spark client in there. So it does voice and video and messaging and file sharing and all that. So if you can put a div into a web page, you can video enable a website, which is, I think, pretty cool. And it's an open source library, so you can go to GitHub, look at and modify all the web source. You can skin it the way you want and CSS it for branding, etc. And beyond the widgets, there's a full-blown SDK, so you can build essentially a full soft phone with your own controls and everything like that if you don't like the way it looks out of the box. So it's very flexible. So in essence, all you have to do in the simplest incarnation, here we have a div, HTML div. We're loading some CSS and a bundled .js from a CDN hosted by Spark. So this means that the widget code is hosted by us. You don't have to mess with it. You don't have to install it on your server. You don't have to keep it up to date. It's always has the latest features and security updates and everything automatically if you want it. And you can certainly keep this on site so you have a tested version. But once you have that code in your page, you can simply create a div and give it some special parameters. In this case, we want to use the Cisco Spark Space widget functionality. So we give it a Spark token. Here I have just a developer token, but you may want to grab this with OAuth or something like that. And we want to start a session with this person, dstat@cisco.com.
Who's
so
that guy?
Who's
that guy?
That's me. Yeah. So it's really as easy as that. You can set the height and weight. You can embed this div into the page anywhere you like. And then just boom, start a call or video session or screen sharing or file sharing session with the person that you specify. Let's see if we can make it work. So just I've saved just this piece of code in a separate web page here. Right there. So if you refresh that, it's essentially a little tiny Spark mini client in the div that I specified. The interface is very similar. We can go to the message functionality. The persistent chat is there with all the historical messages. I can click here and share a file from my machine. I believe whiteboarding and screen sharing features, if they're not there already, are coming soon. You can also, of course, start a voice and video call. This uses WebRTC, so there's no plugins. You don't have to install anything on the PC as long as you're on a supported browser.
There you go.
My phone's down there. I left it.
There you go. And there we go.
Okay, it's a little dark. A little dark in the audience there. There we go.
There you go.
That's it.
Cool.
Hey.
Nice. All right. Excellent. Live coded voice and video
app. Yeah. So in order to embed this in the web page, I'm going to kind of activate this button right here that says we want to talk to Sandy. I'm going to edit the HTML live here. And basically just do a pop-up window. right, so I'm going to save that code, the little bit of JavaScript that it will take that web page we just looked at and open it up in a pop-up with a particular set of dimensions. And then I can float that around and talk to my person while we look at mortgages and interest rates and all that kind of good stuff.
Very cool.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, David. That's fantastic. Okay, so the speaker clock didn't start, so I have no idea where we are on time. Do we have time for one more, or are we way over? We're way over. Okay, so we do have one more. Jock, you can stand up and say hi. We're going to do an IoT hack. This is the water sensor hack. You can, I don't think we're actually going to do it, but no. So you can head over, sorry, this is Jock. This is his hack, sorry. You can build it in the mini hacks. You can dunk the sensor in water and send messages to Spark and get alerts. And it simulates a water main breaking and you getting an alert when that happens. And it's very cool, and you get to play with actual hardware. So go do it. Jock worked really hard on it. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry we went over, but we had so much great people that wanted to give them a lot of time to talk. So
cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Okay. Sorry. There's no time.